Welcome to the Vest Capital Podcast, the go-to platform for accredited investors, real estate developers, and entrepreneurs seeking to build wealth by investing in private real estate.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
Every time, every night is a loose one. And every flight, you know that I put the crew on. You say that I drop top, well, it's
Welcome back to the Vest Capital Podcast. My name is Tanner Wiedrickson, your host. Today is a special moment. I've got a longer-term acquaintance. We got Arthur. We met probably 7-8 years ago in passing, and we're here full circle and had the opportunity to chop it up in the conference room for a little bit, and really enjoyed connecting with you and learning about your IQ and how you're viewing the game of real estate development, because typically there's a lot more salt and pepper in this space, right? And we lean more on the younger demographic. So it's great to be with great company. You have a good ethos, so it's awesome to be here with you.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us more about yourself and your business, perhaps your family, and kind of how you came to this moment right now.
Yeah, I mean, when we met, we were both under the wing of somebody else. So I think one key that I always tell people is to learn from somebody else that's already doing it, and that's how you can speed up that growth. But myself, my name is Arthur. I'm 28 years old. I started in the real estate space in 2016. What I mean by that is I was searching. So I was trying to figure out, how do I get into this real estate space? I met different fix and flippers, different people, did not know anything about development, but just through a connection, I got a hold of the previous employer that I worked for, which was Hurley, and I offered to work for free. So I think that's a huge value, is just if you don't have value or you don't have knowledge, just offer your services for free and do it with all your heart. So I have a company. We started in the Clark County space, Clark County, Vancouver, Washington, and then we went over to the Portland side. And to wrap it all around, we realized we should be on both sides of the bridge. Mm-hmm. And I've got a beautiful family. My wife, Camila. I have a 2.5-year-old son, Matthew, and we just had a daughter. She's about a month old.
Game changer.
Yeah.
Great minds think alike. So we both have 2 kids.
Awesome.
Mine are a bit older than yours, but we both actually proposed to work for free as well.
Cool. Wow. I didn't know that. That's awesome.
A 2-year stretch.
Hey, it worked out for both of us.
It did. Yes, exactly.
Mine was a few months, and then I went to school. I got a bachelor's in business management. So just based on what I did for the 3-month internship, there was an opportunity to be a junior project manager, and I took the job. I said,
capitalized on it.
I'll do it.
Yeah, you were all in.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think that the approach as far as giving more than you take is underrated.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? There's so many people out there that are just wanting to get theirs, and they might not necessarily lead with that authenticity and that value of how 100%. Can I support, how can I grow your organization, and kind of put themselves in the back seat. So what you did is playing the long game.
100%.
In my definition. So
I agree. I think when you serve someone else, eventually you will be served. Mm-hmm. And the company that I worked for had massive growth, and I was part of that growth. Mm-hmm. And I did everything that I could to make sure they were successful. Mm-hmm. And that really was all of the lessons, the backbone, and everything that I needed to start my own company.
A springboard.
Absolutely.
That was almost like your graduate degree.
100%.
Yes. Love it. Was there a particular development that you cut your teeth with, that you look back on and you're like, all right, this was a game changer. I really was in the trenches, and you learned a lot about the game of real estate development?
Yeah, so I started as a junior project manager, and when I was put in the position to be the senior project manager, or just leading a project from start to finish, that was Tinny Creek. And let's just say every lesson that I ever needed to learn was on that site. So
on that one particular site?
One project. And if I did that one on my own, I probably would not be here today. So everything from wetland issues, retaining walls, neighbors, lawsuits. It was a crazy project, but I got to go through the trenches, learn every single lesson, problem solve, bring all the people together, the consultants, the team, and figure out how to get that project through to the finish line. So that was forever grateful. That's the best lesson that I've ever had.
Awesome. I presume that you would always remember this lesson throughout your entire life. Would that be true? Yep.
100%.
Definitely. And what does that site look like right now? Because you acquired it when it was raw land and perhaps a couple of houses on it. Did that transform? Is there a community there now? What does it look like?
So now it's 50 townhomes built by a national builder. They're all duplex and fourplexes. Every time I drive by it, I'm like, that was my first project.
Yes.
That's the one.
Yep.
So it's right off 99th and Highway 99.
Yeah,
So
great location.
great location.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I got a taste of working with national builders because I was just a project manager, but I was given the opportunity to go find the buyer, which is a national builder. So I'm here talking, calling these builders, figuring out what they like, what they want, meeting the team. And it gave me a taste of new construction because the company I work for, it was strictly development. The only vertical we've ever done was commercial. And commercial is a great space, but lots of capital, a lot more risk, and just a lot more involvement. You've got tenants and just, commercial code, commercial GC is a little bit different than the residential. It's much easier, and there's a smaller barrier to entry.
Smaller barrier, absolutely. And going back to the nationals, it's very intriguing to see their buy box. It's a very specific buy box. Their criteria is very specific. And in often cases, they're publicly traded companies. So they have a fiduciary to their shareholders, and they really can't operate outside those bylaws.
That's right.
So in your personal experience, have you had more success negotiating these larger deals with these larger nationals, or perhaps a regional or a local player that might have a bit more autonomy and flexibility outside that criteria?
So the challenge is the nationals have, the right way to say it, they have really cheap money, right? So, and they have so much volume that they can build these homes for 10, 20, 30% less. Like if we're at, let's say, hypothetically 150 a square foot, they're going to be building homes for 120 a square foot. That's a massive advantage. And so what does that mean? They can offer more for the land versus the local guys that have local subs. They only do 10, 20, 30 houses. Typically, they can pay less for the land because they need to have some sort of margin, and their financing is a little bit more expensive. So you come into this play where do you take care of the local community or do you look out for the best interest of the company? And so we kind of have a hybrid. Instead, what we've decided to do is we'll build out these projects. We'll provide the affordable homes. We'll have that portion of that profit from the build side. And then some projects, depending on our volume or what we're trying to achieve. So let's say we want to do 50 doors in a year, but we have 100 in the pipeline, we can sell off 50 lots.
Yep. It's an approach to take some risk off the table,
Right.
diversify, and service debt. So when it comes
100%.
to your current projects, are you gravitating towards a certain class within real estate? Townhomes attached, perhaps, because most recently there's a new housing bill that encourages more density, and there's a condominium play as well. I'm curious if you've entertained that sort of an approach.
So on the Portland side, we went from originally building single family here in Vancouver, Washington. We shifted over, and the townhome condo style product was just coming out in Portland. And the first one, we were one of the first to build it, and so we went really heavy on that. You build this townhome, they're side by side, they're not stacked, and then you condo convert and sell each unit. Well, the lesson we learned was there's not as many buyers that are looking for that, especially if you're doing a condo conversion on a townhome with no garage. Maybe it's a smaller footprint. We would typically build 800 to 1,000 square feet. And so I don't want to say there's not a bitterness, but I've tasted it on that side, and it has been profitable for a short period, and then it became a little more lean because the supply was increasing really fast. And so when you're talking about Vancouver code, right?
Yes.
As this code is going to be coming in, everybody's going to hop on this. And what I would think will happen is it's going to be good for the first portion for the ones that come through in the beginning. And they're the first ones that are going to be building this product and selling. But the volume, there's going to be too much of that product, and it may actually hurt. And so my balance or what we're really focusing on is we're trying to be around that maybe 550s or less, but not necessarily be the most affordable product. We kind of want to be in that middle ground. And so, the detached townhomes, maybe with one car garage, product like that. Like I've seen another local builder, he built a 15-foot wide with a 12-foot garage, right? And so
A skinny, if you will.
Really a skinny. I build them in Portland, but what I do is I do an 8-foot garage, a 5 or 6 foot entry, and it's a 1,300 square foot, 3-bedroom, and it's really nice. It's spacious, but the product is changing and evolving. So when you're changing and evolving and you do a large volume, sometimes the effect is not necessarily positive, but it may be negative. So we're going to balance it out. We'll still do some, right? Like we actually have a project right now in Vancouver. The plan is we're going to be doing detached cottages. They're going to be 1,000 square foot, 17 feet wide, 2 bed, 2 bath, and we're going to condo those. So we'll definitely test it out, but we're testing it out with 9. We're not going to test it out like we tested out with 100.
With the entire community.
And, we sold off
Sure.
30. It was phenomenal. And the other 70 were really slow, and it may take 6 months to sell them off. The absorption rate
For
was
your
not
absorption,
there.
sure.
It was just not there.
Sure. And to hit your price point being sub 550 and to create a compelling design. I've seen your product, great designs. How do you balance not overbuilding and not putting in too many, if you will, compelling finishes, but still hitting that price point?
That's a big challenge because you want your product to look good
And stand
right?
out and
Like you go to
be on brand.
No offense, but you go to a national builder, I won't say names, you walk their homes, it's extremely efficient, but it feels cheap, right? And so we've been able to do the little things like tile. Tile is a little bit more expensive, but if you're really thoughtful with what kind of tile you put, where do you put it? We have Portola Roman clay on the walls. That's a really good way to spice up a bathroom or maybe a wall or something like that. There's just these little things. Cabinets, we started getting into the finished cabinets instead of painting cabinets. They still look really clean. And what we'll do is we'll do like a 42 on the upper cabinet and have maybe a 20-inch, 22-inch backsplash with tile. It feels grand. And then a little, a easy way to make the home feel better or maybe a little bit bigger is a 9-foot first floor and 9-foot second floor. It used to be an 8-foot second floor, but you come up there and you're like, especially when the home is skinny. So the skinnier the home, you do 8-foot doors on a skinny home, it feels big. It doesn't feel small. And then windows. Like that's our natural light and just bringing in a lot of light in there. It doesn't cost much. It just makes the home feel better. And then the finishes like paint colors. The paint doesn't cost more. If you can choose the right colors, as you said, our designs are really cool. We like to just change up the siding, make it look really unique, and then choose really just beautiful colors.
Love it. So the impact that you can create with not a huge dollar amount is very present. And you being local, you know exactly what the consumer wants in the Northwest. So if you can reverse engineer what their preference is and then build a product for them.
And then landscaping. Like you can go crazy and do all these plants and everything, but we do the simple things that make a home look more alive, like grass in the front yard or some grass in the rear. And you don't have to put full irrigation system. There's temp systems. And if a property owner wants to upgrade, you can install it and make it a permanent system. So little things like that where you just learn where you can be more efficient.
No, absolutely. The game is
especially
about
when you're
efficiencies.
competing with the national builder.
Yeah,
right?
no question, because they've got ample resources.
Yep.
Like you mentioned, the cost of capital they have is almost non-existent, if
Right.
not a couple points, where you and I are playing in a game where it's likely high single digits, if not low double digits. So
Right.
the cost of capital really influences the type of product as well. That you can
Exactly.
put out.
And just a side note for national builders, I forget who I was talking to. In the next couple years, their goal is to double down on their inventory. So just more like a market indication. If they are looking to double down on their supply and their lots for the next 2 to 4 years, because they like to acquire for 2, 3, 4 years in advance, that's a really good sign.
Great indication.
That's a really great indication.
It really is, absolutely, because the amount of analytics and proprietary tech that they have access to is very compelling. So you have to read into that. Yes. One of my most compelling deals that I've put together actually is finding a end buyer and having them put up a portion of the capital to contribute to the horizontal construction. So by doing so, they're locked in and tied into their own project they can count on, right? But then on my side, I can go and convert them to one of my investors. So there's a lot of creative ways to then work with these larger players.
Right.
Definitely.
And leverage. Some might say creative, but you can leverage contracts if you're doing a larger development deal and you're not closing for 18 months and the national builder is willing to put down some earnest money.
Yes.
You feel more secure because at the end of the day, the biggest lesson I've learned, yes, all the mistakes, Tinney Creek, building in Portland, condos, all of that is valuable, but the most valuable thing in the game is how many exit strategies do you have in a deal, right? If you have one exit strategy, you're in a tough place. But if you're doing, let's say it's a land deal, 1, you can sell finished lots, 2, you can sell half, build half, 3, you can pre-sell and build for customers. No offense to customers, that's not ideal, but it is an exit strategy. And then 4, you can build to rent. And so I think that that's the most valuable thing is what's your exit strategy? You know, what is the play? And there should be multiple plays on a deal.
Multiple. No more exit strategies. You have to rely on at least 3 to 4 for my position. So great points there. I always equate the game of development to football, for example. There's a quarterback who may be the developer, and they have a team, right? The quarterback can't win the game by themselves. How have you organized your team as you've been scaling up?
The team is everything. So what's really nice is in my experience when I was working under a developer, I was able to vet out the best team possible in regards to consultants. So there's been great civil engineers, there's been bad civil engineers, there's been great jurisdictions, there's been not so great jurisdictions. And so during that time, I was very methodical because I always had a bigger picture on what would, if I could dream and I could have a vision 5 years into the future, what team would I want, right? And so I was able to watch all of this in just live happening and build out that team. And so once I exited and built out my own team, I was able to know who can I trust, who can I rely on, and you know, if a guy can finish a project 5 months earlier than somebody else, that's a lot of holding costs. That's a huge return for the investors if you're talking internal rate of return.
Yep, it's massive.
Right.
And I always look at what the IRR is on a monthly basis, not only annualized, but
Right.
you have to quantify what your holding costs are month to month.
Right.
Because we know what that check looks like when we're writing that to service debt.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then from the standpoint of building your own team, I think the team of consultants, it's really performance-based. At the end of the day, that's performance-based, right? If a civil engineer is going to take you 2 years to get your site ready for development, that doesn't work. You don't want them to be a lot quicker than that. But the internal team, they have to, I think you just have to take care of the people. And taking care of the people is just spending time with them, creating that culture. And it's, you know, I realized, maybe it was Alex Ramosi. He's like, oh, I don't have snacks. I don't have anything. Like, my office is bare. But he spends time with the team weekly and daily, and he is out for the best for them, right? If somebody is looking to grow in a specific area, he helps them and trains them and nurtures them towards that area, because then a person has more purpose. They understand that they're there for a bigger reason, rather than, hey, I'm just clocking in, clocking out. So like our team, our culture is really great. We do a lot of things together. We spend a lot of time together. We just spend time encouraging each other. So we'll even do that. Like, hey, what's a win that you saw somebody else accomplish this week? What's something that you noticed about someone? And then we honor. You know, in our company, we like to honor, meaning we call out what we see that's good in somebody, right? We can say, hey, I really honor the detail that you have to every single deal that you lock up. Or it could be personal. I really honor the intentionality. When you have a conversation with me, you look me in the eyes, we have that conversation. And when, as leaders, we just bring that up, right? We just we pour that out of the people and pour it back into them. They're talking to each other, but for them, this is the best place this is the best job they've ever had. And a lot of them say, from the day I started to where I am today, I'm a changed person. If I was no longer here, if you guys let me go, I'm changed internally. And I think that right there will always stay more than somebody saying, oh, I made X amount of dollars this month, because they know they can go make some money somewhere else. Like, that's just the truth. And so I think that culture is something that we have to, it's like our children in regards to, you know, with kids, you want to discipline and teach them, but you also want to love them. In the same way, when you're talking a company, your people are your children, or they're your partners. So we consider them partners. So how about yourself? What is one way you build your team of consultants, and what's one way that you keep that culture within your company?
The tide rises all ships. So I take a very similar approach to you, where we have to look at the team. And I look at a meritocracy where I always look for the best idea. The best idea always prevails. And you have to look at experience within your jurisdiction. So if we look at our consultants, if they have a track record engineering a particular site multiple times, then that builds more confidence for me, because there's so much risk in this game that we play. I really want to surround myself with a team of A players. And B and C players just don't cut it in this game. So I always have to do a quick audit on their track record and put myself in a position to succeed with them as the quarterback, because you can't be a quarterback and a blimp in this game. You have to be in the trenches in often cases. So love what you were saying. I want to acknowledge you for the approach that you take building your team and culture, because it's not just about making that margin. it's much bigger than that because we're creating communities in our own backyard, and to have our team take place in that, it's really impactful.
For sure. Yeah. And I think, that you chimed into civil engineers and experience, that's everything. You send a site to a certain engineer who's been in that town, who knows the area, who's done enough projects. I've had that many times. I'll just shoot over a text message, hey, I got this one under contract. Give me your thoughts. A 5-minute phone call is worth $20,000 worth of feasibility because of the experience. And I think that translates to staff as well. So the culture and everything is important, but experience is valuable. So we actually ended up hiring for the GC company that my brother runs. He's a partner. We ended up hiring a project manager that was in the remodel space. And we have our SOP, literally like the Bible of construction, where everything we learned at that time when we were hiring was 100 units. We built 100 units. We took our lead PM and they built this entire SOP out. We handed it over, not a single day of new construction experience, but they've done 100 remodels for customers. First fourplex built in 3 months and 3 weeks. And you can go on Portland Maps and see when the permit was issued and when the final occupancy was given.
How many weeks?
3 months and 3 weeks we built a fourplex.
Wow.
And that's 6 years of experience. And so that was my lesson learned. The other PMs were 6 months, 7 months. If you think interest, you're talking $30,000, $40,000 of interest, all because somebody has that experience. And that was my lesson learned, that the value for paying someone for what they're worth is always there. And if the culture aligns, plus you have that experience, it's game over.
Yeah, game over. That's a
Absolutely.
game. That's a game changer completely.
Absolutely.
That really is. Well, congrats on making that asset acquisition. That's incredible, because you can be an A player as a developer, but if you don't have that culture that believes in you, also that creates a subpar. So when you're making your moves and you're making your decisions, how important is mindset?
I always say 90% is mindset and the rest is your knowledge and experience. Of course, experience is huge, but if you've done 200 doors and let's say something didn't go your way, you lose that courage and that confidence, you're not going to do anything else. You won't do anything more. So I think approach and mindset is everything. And I remind myself every morning, some people call affirmations, whatever that looks like, this day I'm going to crush. Like whatever happens, I'm going to crush it. And whatever problem comes my way, we always say in this business, business owners they're not business owners. They're just experts at solving problems. That's it. That's really what it is, because any problem that comes your way, as long as you can solve it, you can hit the next milestone or you can take the company to the next level, whatever that looks like.
Love it. What's next for you then?
We are dabbling in nationwide development. We have our mentorship education platform, and we have students. What I've learned through that is these students are now building homes in these other cities and states. And I now actually want to partner with them. And if they start building 3, 4, 5, 10 homes, if I come in and develop a 30-lot parcel and we do a partnership, I'm now exposing myself to different markets because I was born here. I was raised here. I know Vancouver. I saw Portland. I studied the Portland market for 2 years before I did my first deal. Went in, did a couple deals, but I only know this area. I'm really curious. There's certain areas of Texas where the nationals are heavy. There are nationals here, but they're heavy. I'm talking like 10, 15 nationals in an area. And then there's Tennessee markets and Florida markets where they're really heavy. And I've realized this is the best way to get exposure into these markets without me being the boots on the ground. So this year, I think one of our goals is to get a 50-lot subdivision in another state.
Love it. That's
apart from Oregon and Washington.
Sure, apart. And there is inherent risk operating in different jurisdictions. However, you've built an education program and you have students that are, in a way, clients, soon to be partners, and you can have them boots on the ground. They can rely on you as another advisor, if you will. You can oversee the development.
Yeah, and a lot of people ask why. Why would you do that? Why would you create more competition? Well, there's a shortage of, I always say 4 million. It's probably closer to 7 million.
It's in excess of that.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yes.
Millions and millions of homes, and you're talking years and years and years. And most people, they build a few homes a year. So it's not creating competition. What it really is it's allowing these small families and small business owners to rise up, because half of our nation is small business owners and the rest of it is these large corporations. I want the spectrum to go more towards, let's be 60, 70, 80% small businesses, because that's what our country is run on. So I just believe that whenever you give, no matter what, you will always have.
It always comes back.
It always comes back.
Love that mindset. And there's always opportunity in other markets as well.
Absolutely.
Nationwide. We're in a very compelling moment in time right now where there's just a lot of evolving policies, and we have to be responsible stewards of our own firm's employees and have the impact that we want to have.
And there's powerful tools. So it's like if you're a greedy person, social media will expose you really fast. And so it's it's something that we didn't have 10, 15 years ago, and now I say social media is my business card. And before it was word of mouth. It was referrals. It was, are you on Google? Are you in the newspaper? Now it's people will Google you and see what you're doing and what you're up to. So, when they look you up and they see the projects you're doing and they see what, you have these podcasts and these other things that the information you share, people become interested and they reach out. And so I think that it's both a positive and a negative impact. And so you have to understand that when you're serving everyone else and really having their best interests, it's only gonna benefit everybody at the end. It's a win-win.
It is.
It's really what it is.
And one unique aspect of social media, you're mentioning that you are the business card out there on social media. Your personality, your attributes, your character, what you're putting out there, that also attracts a very similar type of person as well. Right. So it's almost like a gravitational pull where you are building almost a community around Arthur, right? So you attract what you put out there, and I think that's a really unique aspect because before there was not really that opportunity to scale your omnipresence in that regard. So,
and it is really interesting because I would say 10, 15 years ago, the company was the brand. And of course, you still have the company. The company, it's the track record, it's the machine moving everything forward. But what I find interesting is now social media, you are the brand. You are that avatar. And so more than ever, you matter in that company, and people look at what are you doing? What's your character? What are your values? What are your morals? I understand you're doing all these great things, but what about your kids? What about your family? And so I think I don't think anybody would have predicted this 20 years ago that it would be like this, right? Because then it's like Nike. I don't know who runs Nike. You maybe know the CEO, but that's it. And Nike's on commercial. But now you're looking at brands, Andy Elliott's, and all these different guys in these spaces, and they are the recognition, not the company. And so I also find that fascinating. I encourage everybody, get on social media, show what you're doing. It doesn't matter. If you're doing sales, show you're doing sales. If you're in college and you really like a sport, just share that you're doing the sport. Be consistent, post, because you are the brand, and that's where we are going at this point.
Yeah, it is, with heavy momentum as well.
Absolutely.
So documenting your process and putting yourself out there, because a lot of folks might not want to be in that position when they're in the limelight. However, if you can get past yourself, then the opportunities will unlock other opportunities that you really can't even see right now. So
it's the resume now. So if it's not your business or your business card, it's now your resume. And I think people are really looking at social media now more than ever.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, that was a total we went off track, but it's not development related, but I think it can relate to everybody.
It can. It's applicable across multiple domains, and it's new in development too. This was never really done. Right? At the top of our conversation, it was the salt and pepper older demographic, right? That didn't have the opportunity to connect on social media. So,
and they don't know how to use it very well. So
yeah, not so much.
And that's the up and coming. And I also think majority of general contractors, developers, there is a statistic on it, are the older generation. So sooner than later, there's going to be a massive lack in just the construction, the general contracting, the trades. That entire space is going to be lacking. And I think, that sets us up for success because there's going to be a lot of demand.
So much demand. Absolutely. Arthur, the future is bright for you and your business, your family. How might you recommend folks to reach out to you to learn more about what you got going on, your content? What does that look like?
Just what we wrapped up is the branding. So my Instagram is Arthur the Developer. And, I'm posting 3 to 5 times a day on everything I'm doing, everything from our current site, which is Furcrest. I'm actually going to do a challenge building the first duplex in less than 4 months. So I'm going to document that entire process. It's going to be super cool. And then just really all the tips and tricks. And a lot of people ask, how do I get into the space? How do I get into development? And I share, before you get into development first, just learn how to find the right deals, learn how to run the numbers. And so you can, social media, TikTok, YouTube, it's all the same. Arthur the Developer. I was driving one day and I thought of the name and I was like, let's go with it.
Let's go. It's a great brand, and you're creating a lot of great legacy, in my opinion, type of project inventory in your arsenal. So keep on making things happen and catch you in the next one.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the God of me, that's what I'm constantly summoning. I love the climb, I don't care where the summit is. Funny when people be saying I peaked. Retired, my parents, they live at the beach. Models and freaks is my track record. I made my homies my staff members. Got myself lit to give y'all the light. Using my mind to attract better.